What's going on, everybody? Thorias here, and welcome to Canon Fodder. This is a new feature on the channel where I'll be giving my hot take on episodes of various TV shows that I want to weigh in on. And while I'm still scripting these out, they're going to be quicker and less elaborate than the reviews I've been doing. The long-form episodic reviews are still my preferred format, but those do take a while to make, whereas these I can crank out in a fraction of the time. It also means I'll be able to cover more recent stuff without the hassle of ripping footage or the constant concern about angering the copyright bots, which I've already had a few run-ins with. So for my first few installments, I'm going to take a look at Voltron Legendary Defender Season 7, which has turned out to be a pretty divisive season for a lot of people. I've been wanting to do more Voltron videos, and the two I did previously have garnered more views than anything else I've done on the channel so far, so if the viewers want Voltron, then Voltron they shall have. This season was a big one, and there's a lot of stuff to go over, so let's get to it. The Season 7 premiere picks up right where Season 6 left off. The team needs to get back to Earth, but before they can start that pretty lengthy trip, they have to deal with the more immediate concerns of the Lions being low on power after their battle with Lotor, and the clone's body starting to reject Shiro's consciousness. So while Keith and Allura stay with the comatose Shiro as we're treated to various flashbacks that flesh out a lot of backstory for these characters, the rest of the team goes off to find an alien critter they need to recharge the Lions, along the way getting themselves shrunk down to the size of insects, because Voltron is kind of a wacky show sometimes. Structurally, this episode has a lot in common with Space Mall from Season 2, in that it's split into two separate plots, with one being heavy and dramatic, while the other is just plain silliness. And I'll be honest, those are not really my favorite type of episodes, just because no matter how well done they are, there's always going to be a certain amount of tonal whiplash as you switch from one plot to the other. And let's face it, that's kind of inevitable when one story involves the team's leader being at death's door and the other having the team living out the plot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But while those transitions are not exactly subtle, the two stories are executed well enough that it really didn't bother me. The Keith Shiro story was poignant and touching, and the team getting shrunk was just a lot of fun. That actually ended up being my favorite of the two stories, because after how heavy and dramatic the Season 6 finale got, I was in the mood for some zany hijinks, which this episode has no shortage of. It also provided a great showcase for Rommel, who really emerges as the star of the episode. She essentially takes over the role that Hunk used to occupy, of being the one who always comments on how insane the situations they find themselves in often are. By Season 7, the team has been desensitized to all the craziness around them, so we weren't really getting much of that anymore, which is what makes Rommel's outsider perspective so refreshing and entertaining, and also why it felt so fitting that she and Hunk hit it off immediately. Their interactions were a real highlight, and I was totally rooting for them to be paired up romantically by the end of the episode. Watch out, Hane shippers, there's a new kid in town. The other plot focuses on revealing the backstories of Shiro and Keith. These two have always had a really close bond with each other, but we never really knew why until now, and the story behind it is both heartwarming and heartbreaking at times. We see Keith as a troubled orphan kid who Shiro takes under his wing and becomes a surrogate big brother to. One of the coolest bits of the episode is them having fun together racing on those hover bikes along the same course that we saw Keith drive the team through to escape the garrison troops way back in the pilot. And that scene has so much more meaning in retrospect now that we know Shiro was the one who taught Keith how to fly like that. But the most illuminating stuff is what's revealed about Shiro. He's always been one of the more mysterious members of the cast, but for the first time we get a good look at him on a personal level. The revelation that Shiro had some sort of degenerative muscle disease was pretty provocative, not only because it's what made him so determined to go on the Kerberos mission in the first place, but also because it forces you to look at his capture by the Galra at the start of the series in a different light. Being taken prisoner and experimented on by aliens for a year may have ruined his life in some ways, but it also saved his life because those same experiments cured him of his disease. So, in an ironic sort of way, Shiro is kind of indebted to the Galra. Just think about that for a minute. Now, there's been a lot said about the reveal of Shiro's LGBT status in this episode and the introduction of his former partner Adam. Many people were not satisfied, thought it didn't get enough attention, that it was played too subtly, and blah blah blah. I don't really agree with that. Like I said in the Voltron queerbaiting controversy video, you really needed to keep your expectations realistic, because like it or not, there was a limit to how explicit they were going to be allowed to get with subject matter like that on a show like this. Personally, I thought they got the point across. Yes, it was subtle, but it was clear that Shiro and Adam were in a relationship. If you were honestly expecting more than that, you're probably watching the wrong show. Ultimately, I thought this accomplished what it needed to, drawing a comparison between two of Shiro's most important relationships, showing that while one fell apart when Adam didn't want to stick around, the other has only gotten stronger because Keith refused to give up on Shiro no matter what. And damn, that's some pretty deep stuff for what's technically a kids show. And to expand on that for a minute, this is easily one of the best episodes for Shiro as a character, because maybe for the first time we really see him as a flawed human being. One of the tricks about Shiro over the course of the series is that he didn't seem to have any real chinks in the armor. He was the ideal guy that you'd want in charge, the perfect stoic leader who commands respect and always does the right thing, not counting the stuff the clone did because that wasn't really him. But here we get to see Shiro in a situation where he's kind of torn, where he doesn't really know what to do. He has to choose between his relationship and this mission that it's his dream to go on, when it's probably his last chance to do something like that. And he chooses the mission, a decision a part of him comes to regret later. It's a really interesting portrayal of a guy who always seems to have it together when it comes to the job, but in his personal life he's as messed up as anyone else, maybe more so. That may not be what the Adachi shippers were hoping for, but it is something that's very true to life, and it adds a lot of complexity to a character who hadn't been as fleshed out as some of the others in the cast. As a character piece, the episode does its job well. And that's really what this installment is, which does make its placement as a season premiere a little odd, since it feels more like a Fallout episode from the events of Season 6, but since the wait between Season 6 and 7 had been so short, and the team's epic battle with Lotor was still fresh in my mind, I didn't really need the opener to be some huge explosive affair that flipped over every table in the interest of starting off with a bang. A smaller, intimate story made for a nice change of pace. It may have been a less traditional season premiere, but it was also one I was kind of in the mood for. A little adventure makes for an effective, if unorthodox, season opener. While it does forego the traditional action set pieces you might expect from a premiere in favor of the team just picking itself up and dusting itself off after their massive ordeal at the end of Season 6, that was probably warranted in order to give the team, as well as the audience, a chance to recharge their batteries. It's also a nice reminder that the writers are very capable of telling more intimate stories in addition to the big sweeping epics. If I have one complaint, it's that the plot about the team getting shrunk feels kinda like filler at times. Yeah, it's entertaining, but it's mostly just harmless fun that might have been better utilized by setting up a direction for some of the other characters like Lance or Pidge to head in this season. But it does plant some seeds for Hunk and Rommel that may pay off later, so I wouldn't call this wasted space. It's just that the Shiro-Keith plot is where the meat of the story is. I want to make Canon Fodder a regular feature on the channel, so let me know what you think of this format down below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when new videos get uploaded, and I'll be back real soon with the next one. Until then, over. Out.